We are now being recorded. And I'm going to try to admit somebody from the lobby if I can. Okay. So welcome to our November Wireside chat. I'm joined by my co-host, Melissa Hart, who is, as many of you know, also an instructor in our program. And our special guest tonight is Kirsten Flournoy, also an awesome instructor in our program. Kirsten I.K. Flournoy is a devotee of the Gothic, writing as Kirsten Imani Kasai. She's the author of 3 novels, The House of Urzuli from Shade Mountain Press, Ice Song from Del Rey, and Tattoo, also from Del Rey. Her fiction, poetry, and essays have appeared in Transition, Arts and Letters, Existere, Journal of Arts and Literature, Drunk Monkeys, American Journal of Economics and Sociology, and The Body Horror Book. According to Forward Reviews, Kirsten makes the macabre beautiful. Kirsten is a PhD candidate in Gothic research studies at Manchester Metropolitan University, focused on feminine power in historical witchcraft. She has an MFA in creative writing from Antioch University, Los Angeles, and teaches graduate creative writing and literature in our program and elsewhere. She lives with her wife in Texas, where she quietly advocates for introvert rights from the privacy of her home. I love that. And Kirsten, I hope I can share. Congratulations. You're recently wed, in fact.
Yes, thank you.
That's wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us. There's so much I would like to talk about regarding your writing, regarding your journey as a writer. But the thing that I feel like I have to start with is I don't believe I've ever read a list of publications from a writer that includes Drunk Monkeys and the American Journal of Economics and Sociology. So tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
It's a bit of a wide range. So I have many interests, and I got into the journal because I'd written my MFA thesis paper on feminist utopias. And so I had that available on, I believe it's ResearchGate and some of the academic sharing websites where you post your research. And they approached me and asked me to contribute. So then my article on feminist utopia got included in that. And that's like one of my interests that kind of bleeds into the other work that I do, because it tends to be very focused on feminism and women and women's rights and advocacy and the stories of women throughout history, typically women of color, marginalized and oppressed women as well. And my own fiction writing, I send it out and I'm kind of pitching it everywhere, and it got picked up by Drunk Monkeys as well. And that is a speculative fiction piece. And interestingly, that is sort of a dystopian fiction piece about a catastrophic volcanic event. So I was reading about how the Dark Ages actually were a result of an enormous volcanic explosion, and there was so much ash and debris in the air that it actually changed weather patterns in Europe. And that ushered in the Dark Ages. And so it was a lot about that. And so I wrote about the possibility of that happening now and how it would affect people. And that story looks at several characters, one in Africa, one in Tokyo, and one in England, coping with those weather changes and the effects. So that is fairly dystopian. But then I also write academically research interest in utopias and how we create better worlds. So I'm very interested in polarities.
Well, and they say that one person's utopia is another person's dystopia. So
Yeah.
perhaps there's not such a great difference between them in some respects.
Yeah, it's sort of like the trash versus treasure,
Yeah.
right? Trash is another person's treasure.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like, I want to go back to our secret history.
Yeah.
Um, many years ago, as one of my very many freelance gigs, I did a lot of stuff for Del Rey Books, and I wrote copy for almost their entire speculative fiction list, all their fantasy, all their science fiction. Did tons of author interviews. Anyway, at one point, not too long ago, when I was looking over Kirsten's biography, the title of her novel, um, Ice Song, just really chimed in my mind, and I went through my archive of copy, and sure enough, I wrote the copy for those Del Rey books so long ago, and that just made me pleased as punch, and just very thrilled, more thrilled than ever to have you as an instructor. And the lesson there for students is that, you never know where the people that you meet in this business are going to come back into your lives. Um, Ice Song, if I remember it correctly, that's a kind of a post-apocalyptic novel in some respects, isn't it?
To some extent, I mean, it's never really specified what the state of the world is, but it does sort of presume an alternate um, future where, you know, genetically people and animals have morphed and combined. Um, and there is a lot of, I mean, it's really a work of social commentary. So it was just based on things that I was seeing and experiencing every day.
Hmm.
Um, but it
So
is,
that
yeah, go ahead.
no, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um, I can't remember what I was going to say. So go ahead.
So that was a novel that came out in 2009. That was a while ago. And it was that was your first novel, I believe.
Yes.
So tell us about a little bit about like your journey as a writer that led up to that point, and then what came after, like what got how you began your publishing career, and then what happened to take you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had been writing off and on. You know, I had the, I suppose, familiar origin story of a teacher who recognized my interest and, I suppose, my talent, perhaps, and was very encouraging and supportive in high school in an AP English class. And it was through that course that I really discovered my voice for the first time and my interest. And so I'd been writing a little bit here and there, but wasn't aggressively submitting. And it didn't really occur to me that being a full-time writer was something that was achievable. You know, I think for a lot of writers and creatives as well, whether you're an artist or a musician or a writer, there is a lot of societal pressure to pick something practical for your career, right?
Hmm.
Do something
Absolutely.
that, you know, perhaps your parents are saying, well, that's an uncertain living, choose something else. And so we don't always get that early support. You know, it really becomes, um, it's like a vehicle that we have to learn how to build ourselves and drive it ourselves. Like nobody's going to give it to us, right? So just over the years, I kept working and working, and then actually I had an office job, and the owners would often travel because they were teaching workshops, and I would be the only person left in the office. And so, with all this time and really nothing to do, I started writing in my spare time. And I wrote my entire first novel at my job.
That's
Uh,
great.
yeah, like around the edges of my days because I had small children then. And just started sending it out. And I got lucky. I got an agent who sold it to Random House, which is the parent company of Del Rey. I got a 2-book deal, and that was really exciting and gratifying, and I learned so much. And that's one of the things that I always tell my students is like that you are so lucky to be getting an insider view of publishing through this program, because most writing programs don't teach you what it's like to be a working writer.
No, you have to kind of figure it out on your own.
Yes,
I mean, most of us did.
You get hired for a job and there's zero training, and you have to figure it out. And so it was a learning curve, but of course it was so much fun. And I got to meet some really interesting writers and people that I, heard about. I went to the parties and went to Comic-Con, and so it was loads of fun, but certainly very different than the mythology.
Yep.
Right. And so then when I got to my third novel, I made a different choice and actively was pursuing a small independent feminist publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and had a very different experience than working with one of the big four. Now they're four. They were going to be three, but I think the Simon & Schuster acquisition got blocked. So I've kind of had a broad range of experiences that have been really nice. And so, yeah, it's just been a journey. I didn't really think that I was going to go on it. And just because I was very dogged about this is something I really do and it comes naturally to me, and it's a way that I express myself and move through the world and interact with these big ideas.
Mm-hmm. So, did you already have your MFA when you sold your first novel?
No.
So after you had success as a published novelist, then you went back and got your MFA.
Yes, I got my MFA because I wanted to teach.
I see. And was that like kind of in the gap in between, say, your second novel and your third novel?
Let's see. The first book came out in 2009. Second one in 2011. I started my program in 2012 and finished in 2014.
Oh, okay.
So I already had the two books under my belt.
But so I'm wondering if the MFA, your experience in the MFA was one of the things that contributed to your taking kind of a different route with your third novel and going with a smaller feminist-oriented press.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of my mentors actually had said to me when I was talking to her about, about my experience publishing, that a lot of writers she knew had gotten their hearts broken through publishing. And I really related to that. I think part of my publishing journey was that my first book got picked up. It was very exciting. I had a 2-book deal. But then in 2009, we had the big crash, the recession.
Mm-hmm.
And there were huge publishing shakeups in the industry. And so I think I went through 3 editors.
Wow.
So my acquiring editor wasn't the one that ended up working on the second book. The one that got the second book wasn't the one that actually took it.
Yeah, that's happened to me before as well. It's unfortunate, and it's really a crapshoot because there's no guarantee that new editor is going to feel any kind of connection to your book. And I mean, really, in a way, I don't blame them, because obviously they have their own agenda and their own people that they want to publish. But still, it's very tough for writers in that position. I commiserate with you. Have you been in that position too, Melissa?
3 times. 3 times. I think I'm cursed. Kirsten, I'm curious, how else has traditional publishing with one of the big 4 broken your heart? I think this is instructive.
Well, first of all, I came into the process of publishing with, as I said, the mythology, right, of what a writer's life is like and what's going to happen. It was so very exciting, but like I literally thought, although, practically, of course, I knew this wasn't going to happen, but it felt to me as though it was such a momentous event that I'd gotten this book published, that the day that it hit shelves, I would open my front door and there would be like a parade, a marching band going down my street. You published a book. And there was nothing happened. I went to bookstores, and most stores don't carry a book unless it's big, and I didn't know about the whole thing about paid promotions and placements and shifting editors so many times. And like, one of the things that was most difficult was that I wrote I Song was book 1 and Tattoo was book 2 of a series. They did not design them the same, and they did not promote them as a series. So it wasn't actually until maybe like 4 years ago that I happened to notice that they were starting to list them as book 1 and 2.
Oh,
So the second book was released as a standalone and not a sequel,
Oh, wow.
which tanked it.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so
And that's
crazy.
the point.
You have to wonder, like, what were they thinking?
I mean, I think it was the process of shifting so many editors and like the
Mhm.
publishing shakeups, and just, the person that loved your book and brought it into a publishing house may not be the person that ends up taking it to press, and they're not going to put perhaps the same amount of love and attention because they're not personally invested.
Yeah.
So on a happier note, I hope, did you have a different experience with the smaller press? And if so, what did that look like?
I did have a different experience. It was a very small press, and the Rosalie Morales Kearns is the one who picked up the book, and she was the publisher. So she was, wearing a lot of hats, and it was like hand in hand, a process of editing it and planning the release and the promotion, and talking about the budget. So I had a very intimate process efforting that book into the world, which I was really grateful for and I loved. Like, it was wonderful to have the big publisher experience and understand like the machinery, right, of this behemoth enterprise. Fascinating, so informative. I loved learning about it, but I also love understanding what small presses are like and really getting that experience of, I love this work and I want to share it with others.
Yeah.
But that was really
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
To
you.
to really have that sense of being involved on on actually multiple levels, because you really don't get that with one of the big publishers,
yeah,
unfortunately. And
yeah.
you can't, because they don't operate on that scale. But I
Yeah.
think no, please go ahead.
uh, what they what their investment in each book is very different.
Yeah.
So
So what are, I also want to talk about your academic work, but before we get to that point, what are you working on now, fiction wise?
right now I am working on a novel that I've been looking at for like 25 years.
Yeah, okay.
um and I've sent pages to my agent, and she was very encouraging. So I'm working on finishing it, and it's a story that I'm really invested in. It's a speculative fiction sort of story to a degree, but I feel like the content is perhaps very incendiary in this political climate. So I'm a
Mhm.
little wary of the work itself and the reception, and I think that impedes my progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it.
Do you,
And then,
do you think
sorry.
would that do you think that I don't want to press you about the content of your story, but do you feel that that's something that would make it more difficult for your agent to sell the novel?
No, I think that it's going to be exciting for a lot of people because it's very different.
That's great.
I'm just very aware of how, I guess, how inflammatory climates are.
Right.
And
I'm so curious about about this novel, but I know I don't want to ask you about it. I
well,
mean, I
it's
do want to ask you about it, but I don't know how much you're comfortable talking about it.
about a woman who creates this substance to neutralize male violence.
Oh, wow.
And she trains an army of women around the world to go out and deliver it in areas of high conflict and high violence. And she's got this side business with building self-sustaining societies, so little model societies. And like the FBI is after her. So there's like all these different elements that come into play, but really it's about, I guess at its core, another feminist utopian vision.
Yeah.
Right? How do we make the world better for everybody when strategically you look, or, you know, if you really look at the numbers, right? A small number of men, genetic men, are responsible for the majority of global violence at the expense of women, children, and other men. So how do we address this subset of violent offenders in a way that is humane and practical and ethical?
Yeah.
So I'm wrestling with these really big questions, but also trying to make a novel that is, you know, a little bit of a thriller. It's got a love story aspect. It's got social commentary.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. It's a lot to wrestle.
It's a big book. It sounds great.
Thank you. It is a big book. And
Hey,
then,
everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kirsten.
oh, and I'm also working on my dissertation, which is
Yeah.
a non-critical piece.
So, Melissa, I know you had a question you wanted to upraise
Well,
from the chat.
Yeah, it's Taryn's question. Such a good question. Would you recommend a small publisher for a first-time publishing?
I think, you know, you can't always determine who wants your book and who picks it up, but I say whether it's a big publisher or a small one, go for the person that you feel good about working with.
Mm-hmm.
With the person that really understands your work and your vision, and they have a compatible vision. I think the nice thing about small publishers, especially now, is that there's so many of them. Publishing is a greatly ability to deliver content to people. And so I think one of the best things about that is that you have small publishers that are much more willing to take a risk on new writers, and especially if your content is unusual.
Yeah.
So definitely pitch to them, definitely reach out.
And I guess, I'm sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add that you can find so many of these small publishers and editors at the AWP conference in Seattle in March of 2023. So it's well worth attending. And I think there are still scholarships available for MFA students.
I believe there are. Melissa, could you throw a link maybe in the chat about that?
Yeah.
And by the way, everyone, I think I'm remembering correctly that you're going to be presenting at AWP, aren't you? Don't you have a panel there?
Moderating a panel, yeah.
Very exciting. Will you be there, Kirsten? Uh-oh. Kirsten, we can't hear you. I think you're muted. Kirsten, I think you're muted. Maybe I can unmute.
Can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Oh,
Oh,
there
there
I
we
go.
go.
Okay. As I mentioned, I'm in this house and I have some tech issues, and one of them is that my battery is just about to die.
Oh no.
So I'm sorry for the informality of my presentation.
This is an informal chat, so it's very, very fitting. So Kirsten, will you be at AWP this year? Is that something that you have done in the past?
Yes, I've done AWP before. I was on a panel about queering the canon several years ago, and I haven't really gone that much just because I've had so many other, things going on in my life. But I do intend to go at some point. Right now, my focus is on finishing the PhD work.
Yep. So let's talk about that really quickly as well, because your PhD, first of all, you're in an incredible program that allows you to travel to England, I believe, for portions of the PhD. Is that right? So that's cool.
It's not one of the low residency periods where I'm required to go, but I do want to go at least to defend my dissertation.
Yep.
And I'm hoping to get funding to enable me to go to the International Gothic Association conference. And then my university manager, Met, also has Gothic events and festivals and so forth. So we'll see. I've applied for some fellowship and grants and that sort of thing.
And your thesis is kind of like, I think you mentioned a minute ago, a kind of a combination between a more traditional scholarly work and kind of a work of fiction.
Yes. So there are two complementary work. One of them is the critical thesis, and then the second one is a novel, which is really a collection of linked short stories. And they're both tackling this aspect of feminine power in historical witchcraft from different angles. So critically, we're looking at a variety of different topics, such as what is feminine power? How does it relate to witchcraft? How is it interpreted by society? What do we think of women's power, and so on? And it's taken a turn sort of into quantum physics, where I'm looking at what is the actual nature and makeup of magic and personal power.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, so it's going deep. And then the creative piece is a series of short stories that follow the reincarnated soul of one witch, born through different lifetimes and eras. And then that allows us to look at different historical periods, different types of magic, right? We have a low country root worker, the American South in like the 1920s and 30s. We teenager interested in the neo-pagan movement in the UK in the 80s. We've got a Neolithic witch who is discovering her power like pre-ISIS. So it's really great. It touches on a lot of aspects of mythology, folk tales, folklore, and historical figures. So I've had so much fun doing it. And the best thing is that I will have a doctorate, and my project is on witchcraft. So really, when I finish my PhD, I will be a witch.
That's great.
That's fantastic.
like literally be a witch doctor.
That's awesome.
Ask for
So somebody in the chat asked how you react to negative reviews of your books.
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. So when I first started, when my first novel got published, my agent at the time, I believe it was her, told me, like, keep an eye on your reviews, and when you see the really good ones, like, pass them on to your publisher, promote them, etc. And I understand the wisdom of that approach, but I had a Google search, Google alert set up for my name, so everything related to my book came across, and man, it was rough. I was not prepared for negative reviews. Like, it didn't occur to me that the things that people would find fault with. Like, I think I got a negative review because my book was shelved in the wrong area of the library. I was like, but I have nothing to do with that. Or it's like when you read on Amazon and people give something a negative review because the package was damaged.
Yeah.
Which is not the fault of the producer of the item.
Mm-hmm.
So that it was really fulfilling and wonderful when I got good ones, and I really needed those small comments. Like, I would hear from people, or I would see reviews, or people would email me and tell me how much the work meant to them and that they loved it so much. Like, there was one woman that said she checked my first book out from the library and she loved it so much she didn't want to give it back.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was so lovely and charming, and it made me really happy that now, having that experience, I say use a filter.
Yeah.
Have someone else, do that job for you. Don't
Yeah.
yourself to everything, because that like little flame that we have burning is like a pilot light, and pilot lights get blown out, right? And then
Yeah.
like your creative life can go cold.
Yeah.
But you have to nurture and protect yourself and your work and your creative spirit. I think quite a high degree that we're not aware of when we first begin an endeavor like this.
Do you, I mean, you are doing scholarly research in the history of witchcraft, but I'm also wondering, in light of what you just said about the, nurturing the pilot light of our own writerly souls, as it were, whether you feel that there's an kind of a magical or witchcraft-like aspect of your approach to your creative self and yourself as a writer.
Um, to some extent, yes. I mean, there is absolutely magic involved in the way that I work. I don't know that everyone else does, but for me, it's a very it's funny because I'm sort of eminently practical, and yet I have this side that is very focused on like the ethereal. And so for me, when I'm writing, it's like I hear a little bit of a song or something, and then I'm tuning a radio dial, trying to find the signal and like hone in to where it's strongest, and then I can like hear it and
Yeah.
bring it back and convey it, right?
Yeah.
And I very much believe in this sort of collaborative approach with the world of your stories. I guess it's sort of like Jungian, connecting with
Yes.
the collective unconscious, but it's very much to the extent where just as little kids have imaginary friends, right? And they're very real for them. I think our characters are also very real for us. And these stories are real and these worlds are real. And you can talk to those people. You can enter those worlds and observe. You can ask questions. And I think approaching it with this sort of mysticism allows it to be this really special collaborative process. And I get to be a facilitator of, ushering in these stories into these worlds. Yeah, it's like someone just posted in the comments about the static on the TV, right? It's like you're listening, you're finding a signal. There's something in the universe that is trying to find its way to you. I was just telling my friend, the friend that I'm staying with is an artist and a photographer, and we were kind of talking about this topic, and I mentioned that I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert who said this, that an idea will come and knock on your door, and you can answer, and it will be your idea, and it will say, "Hey, work with you, right?" Or let's tell this story and bring it into the world together. And if you don't open the door, or you're not ready, then that idea is like, okay, I'm going to find somebody else who's ready for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to be ready and try to be respectful of that.
I really love that because that it gets away from the mindset that this is my idea, it belongs to me, nobody else can have it, right? I alone can write this. Instead, it's like you're the channel for this idea that could be coming from to anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I don't want to say channeling because that has such a hokey connotation.
Yep.
But it kind of is like that. I think that's really, like, someone I just saw posted that they find ideas in their dreams. It's kind of the same thing. You're accessing a dream world. You're communing with other planes through your work. And people are able to open that channel, that portal, through multiple means, whether you are doing it through art or trance dance or whatever your thing is.
Yep. So Melissa, I see you nodding along. Or is your experience dovetail with that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, long distance running and writing go hand in hand. But I was raising my hand because I think, Kirsten, that you were quoting Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you felt that book would be useful to MFA students.
Yeah, I think that is a great book because it does give you a sense of like creativity as this bigger process. The other book that I really like is if anybody's familiar with Bell Hooks, I always reference her work. Remembered Rapture is one that I really like a lot, and I think that she has a wonderful approach that is both practical and artistic.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask you one more question? Is that okay, Paul?
Of course.
Are you still represented by Serendipity?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your relationship like with those agents at Serendipity? I interviewed Regina Brooks one time for an article and was just blown away. What a wonderful person.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. My has been really supportive of my work and interested in my ideas, which I love. And I appreciate that she's patient and consistent because I'm a slow writer. I'm a very slow writer.
Would
One of those people that can churn out a book a year, but it's like, I think Hart published a book or something more like that.
do you feel that it would be advantageous for emerging writers to get a literary agent? Excuse me.
I think if you can get an agent, that is wonderful because you have an advocate, you have somebody who knows the business, that can be a really positive intermediary for you, right? Because especially if it's your first book, you don't really know um, how to approach people. You don't know the language. You don't know how to negotiate those long, long contracts. And I think it can be really nice to have an agent. But again, publishing has changed a lot, and there are many, independent and micro presses and publishers that you don't have to have an agent to approach, which is great. So I think, understanding where your book fits in the market. If you are writing something like a romance or a commercial thriller that is something that sells, then yeah, definitely approach agents. If you're writing something that is maybe more experimental, I would try indie publishers as well.
Mm-hmm.
They will be more receptive.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that an agent provides, and that you did mention, is a kind of experience and radar for scams and the like, that especially a young writer, or a writer who is publishing for the first time and maybe looking into a small press, or even going up more of a self-publishing route, might not be as attuned to as an agent. So if you are going that route, and you don't have an agent, what do you do to supply yourself with that protection that an agent can provide, so that you don't find yourself getting scammed?
Yeah, there are definitely some ways to educate yourself before you go into it. So I'm not sure how often it's updated anymore, but there's a site, Editors and Predators,
Yeah,
or Writer Beware,
yeah,
right? And those are great because then you get a good sense of like what kind of problems people have had and what not to do and what to watch out for. So, common sense advice is you're not paying anybody up front. So if somebody says, okay, for $300, I'll edit your book and then we'll take it to market, you are not investing anything. The agents get paid when you get paid.
yeah. Which
Um,
is, I mean, just to say, like, that's not to say that if you're going the self-publishing route, it may be wise to hire a professional editor to edit your book. And that's a little bit of a different thing than what you were just referring to as kind of a red flag.
yeah, for sure. And I do advise people to use an editor if you are self-publishing, because that will tank a good book. Is people have, I find that readers have little patience for spelling errors and formatting things. And so um, I have taught editing and publishing workshops at San Diego State recently, and a lot of it focused on actually how do we make a book appealing to customers? How do we make it look professional and real?
Mhm.
Because often when you're self-publishing, you're trying to do everything yourself, and you may not have the skill set
Or the
to,
money.
yes, exactly, to design a book. So it is challenging. I mean, that's one of the benefits of having a nice network and being a good literary citizen, is being able to perhaps trade skills, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'll edit your book, but I'm also a graphic designer by trade. So how about I help you with design and layout? So that kind of thing can be really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask a question from the chat here,
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
Tabitha, which I think is a great question. I have started and not finished many books. My main problem seems to be ending my work. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, ending is challenging. I think it depends on whether you're a pantser or a plotter, right? I tend to be more of a pantser. So I'm just listening, like, you tell me, what are we doing? And putting it on paper. Um, and if you are a plotter, it's easier to work from an outline. But I think it's really good to look at what you imagine for the ending, right? What do you want to send people home with? What's the last feeling? What's the lesson? What is the purpose of your story? Because if you understand that, you can guide people towards it, whether you are pantsing or plotting, right? You understand where you're going. If you don't know what that end goal is, what's the feeling? What's the lesson? How do the characters change? What are people going to think about when they close the book and it's done?
Yeah.
It's my goal to ultimately entertain them and they'll read the book and enjoy it and forget about it. Is my goal to offer a profound lesson? Is this a character study? So knowing what the end goal is, right? In other forms of writing, such as journalism, that's called the takeaway.
Yeah.
What is the message that people are going to take from the work? So you have to understand what it is that you're trying to get to first.
Of
And
course, that might not happen on your first draft.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of it is trial and error. We learn by making mistakes. So keep writing, ask your characters, what happens? Where does this story end? Sometimes the end is not where we think it is.
No, absolutely. I really like what you said about a feeling, because I find that with my own work, I often know what the feeling I would like a reader to have at the end. I know that long before I actually know, if I ever do, what my message is or what lesson I mean to impart. So I can kind of navigate by the North Star of that feeling. And that will take me towards an ending that is, consonant with that feeling, but involves plot elements that I hadn't necessarily considered.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But because you have that North Star, you can always reorient yourself if you start getting lost.
Yeah, because you're like, I'm moving away from that feeling now, and I know that feel. I'm confident in that feeling. That's the feeling I want my readers to have. So I need to shift back in this direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the North Star. Melissa, do you find that as well in your work?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to deal with the chat.
Oh, no worries.
I can put the chat on pause. Tell me that question again.
I was wondering if you kind of have the same experience in your work of understanding where you're trying to get to in your book.
Yeah. So both in essay, like literary essay writing and writing books, I've heard that a great ending leaves the reader thinking something new and or wanting to do something new. And I tend to write to those. I tend to write to that. So yeah, I have like Paul, a feeling that I'm going toward. Hoping that readers will end the book with a particular feeling and maybe a call to action.
Yeah. I think understanding what a call to action and a takeaway is important for new writers because they may not be familiar with those terms too.
Can you define those terms?
Well, the takeaway is really the message, right? What do you want people to walk away with if they define, like what Melissa said, what they learned or experienced or what changed for them in a sentence? And I think understanding that is really important. What was the other term we're defining?
Call to action.
The call to action.
I get caught up in my own thoughts sometimes, and it's like they just boop, boop, go away. A call to action is like a command. What are you going to do? Right? You're trying to inspire people to take a specific action. So, if you're writing an opinion piece, you're trying to change their mind or convince them of something. The call to action would be, you're reading this story and, oh, I feel inspired. I want to take action. And, if you're writing a piece about the environment, well, now I understand the problem. I want to be part of the solution. So I just read this article on plastic waste in the oceans. I want to go clean up a beach. Right. So that is like inspiring people to actually do things in the real world versus, theoretically.
Yep. Thank you. So folks, we are coming to the end of our chat. So I want to encourage people to put questions into the chat, and then we will upraise them to Kirsten and hopefully answer them. Here's an interesting question from Bradley. Do certain words create feelings like certain colors change mood?
I love that.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, absolutely, because we have so many preconceived notions of the baggage that a word carries with it. Right? And word choice is so important in your work, because you can shift meaning, really profoundly or really subtly, depending on the word that you choose.
Yeah. The word you choose and the words that surround it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always describe them like Legos, right? If you change the order, break them apart, shift them, how does it affect the pattern?
Yeah.
Here's another good question. Do you have a hard time staying in third person or first person while writing? Kristen says sometimes they drift from one to the other without realizing it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common, especially in a first draft, because you're very open to the idea, you're watching, you're listening, you're trying to put this puzzle together, and POV isn't necessarily solid. And I know a lot of writers might change their POV several times in the course of a novel, because the POV really can affect the way that the story is told, how it's interpreted, and what you can do with it narratively. And so I think it's fine if that happens. You're aware of it. Choose your POV and go back and you just correct for it when you're revising. I don't think it should necessarily be something that you need to worry about when you're putting a first draft down.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I think is to be aware of it, to
Yeah.
reach the point where you can be aware of it, because once you're aware of it, then like Kirsten said, you can correct for it in subsequent revisions. I mean, when you're drifting between POVs in a first draft, you very well might just be feeling your way towards the POV of your novel. You might not know it yet.
Yeah, exactly. The voice may not be defined, and that's something that just emerges through the work.
Yeah. And I know with my second novel, I wrote it in one POV through many drafts, and then it was only in the final draft that I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I thinking? It really needs to be in this other POV, and I changed it, and it was better that way. I'm sorry.
It changed your novel radically to do that.
It made it so much better, and the thing is, it didn't change anything substantive about the plot at all. Not at all. All it did was refocus I guess the characters came through in a different way, but my relationship to my story changed radically just by a simple POV change.
Yeah, I really like that. And it is about shifting focus, right? Like putting on different glasses and lenses.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go host a live Twitter chat.
Yes, and can you put the link to that? Melissa just had her novel Daisy Woodworm Changes the World just came out. Wonderful novel's been getting rave reviews, and she's going right from this chat to another one. And are you going to put the link in too?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't put the link. There's no link.
Oh, there's no link. Oh,
There's
okay.
no
Well,
link.
oh,
You just have to go up to the search bar and type in hashtag MG book chat.
so it's on Twitter.
Yeah, if we
Oh,
still
okay.
have Twitter in the next 4
Right.
minutes. Yeah.
Right. So I invite everyone to follow Melissa over to MG Book Chat, and if you have to cut out a little bit early, Melissa, we
Oh, I
understand.
do. I
Yeah.
do. Kirsten,
Well,
thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was great to chat with you.
You as
thanks,
well.
Melissa.
Paul, thank you.
Yep.
See
See
ya.
you soon. Bye. So we've got a few minutes left. Are there any more questions? Kirsten, I see like glimpses of artwork behind you. Are those the paintings of the person that you're staying with, the artist?
No, this is artwork that her great aunt has.
Wow.
So she also collects clowns. So
Clowns.
there are
Like
a lot
scary
ceramic
clowns?
No, they're more like cutesy clowns, but there is
Okay.
an odd painting of a clown.
Oh
So
no.
it is very it's like I'm in a novel where I'm staying at this house and there's all these, technical problems and
Yeah. You're like in the first chapter of a novel that's going to take a very, very dark turn.
yeah, absolutely.
Probably tonight as you're trying to get to sleep.
No, don't say that. We already had an experience with trying to locate the fuse box in the basement, and literally it reminded me of the opening scenes of the
Oh
movie
my
Barbara,
God.
where they
You
open
went
the
down
door.
to the basement.
Yeah, and it's a spooky basement.
Of course it is. It's got clowns on the main floor. Of course the basement's going to be spooky. Oh, that's great.
It's a lot of fun.
So let's have one last question from Kristen, I'm sorry, who asks, did you know that your series was going to be a series when you started writing it, or did you realize it later?
That's a great question. I'd only visualized the first story, and so I wrote the first novel, and in the process of that, I got to the end of that novel and was like, oh, this isn't done at all. Like, there's a lot more to come. And so I actually really like the second novel a lot because I feel that it's more layered and complex. And I like what I did with the characters and the way that they revealed themselves. And there's actually a third novel that didn't get picked up, and I just haven't finished it.
Do you think you'll
Yeah,
self-publish that at some point?
I would love to, because that one has a different focus. It's more about one of the younger characters, so it could be, YA. The first two are pretty adult.
Does Del Rey still have the rights to those novels?
They do.
Yeah, that's the problem, because now you've got a third novel that's like connected to those, but unless you sell it to Del Rey, it's kind of going to be an orphan book, at least with the other books that it's related to.
Yeah, and it's hard to sell or nobody wants to pick up like the third book in a series that's published by somebody else.
Don't I know it? I have the two books in my I have a book about, or two books about kind of a historical fantasy that has to do with clocks and time. And the third book, the culminating book of the whole series, I don't know if I'll ever even write it, because the books, I got dropped by the publisher after the first two books came out. It's just so frustrating, folks. This is the life of a writer. You have to roll with these punches, right? And keep on to the next thing.
Have you thought about self-publishing that third novel?
I have. I mean, I have to write it. I have to write it first. But and no, I think I will write it. But what it did was, I mean, that was such a crushing experience that I couldn't begin work on the third novel right away. I had to do some other stuff in between. and like the novel I'm working on right now, for example. But you know, probably in the next few years, I'll go back and finish that trilogy. Because I don't like to leave things unfinished.
Yeah, right. I mean, the story is still waiting to be told.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like the knock on the door, and I opened the door to that idea, and it would not be right to now shut the door on it now that I've invited it in.
Yeah, absolutely. We need closure. I like
Yeah,
things being tied up in a neat little bow.
yep, exactly. Well, folks, that is the end of our Wireside chat for today. I want to thank our guest, Kirsten Flournoy, so much. This was just a wonderful discussion, and I want to wish you the best of luck with your doctorate. I'm very excited that I'll actually know a witch doctor, and I look forward to reading your next book.
Thank you so much. This was really wonderful. I loved chatting about my work and hearing all your questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Bye.